Hello everyone on Women Dialogues, and I'm your host Shashi to create more voice for women and by women. And today's our guest joining us from New York, Miss Sheila Murphy. Sheila Murphy, she is a very famous and renowned person in terms of when we are talking about coaching in corporate America and law firms. She is pursuing her passion for helping others to reach their full potential. So, moreover, we will know by her, by listening her life journey, her experiences, and we will see how she reached on today the platform where she is having her own business, her company, and she is a very talented officer for women. So let's start. So welcome, Miss Sheila Murphy, on this platform.
Oh, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here today.
It's a great pleasure to be having you on this platform. So let's start talking about, first of all, as you are from New York. So tell us, our audience who are interested to listen about the place where you do work.
Oh, I mean, I am a big New York fan. I've worked there since I graduated law school in 1988. It is a fabulous city. It will come back after the pandemic, and we're all excited to be there to see what its reinvention looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe it is a city of happening. It is a city, the place where people can see how they can fulfill their desire and all. So looking forward to know more about your early life and how you grew up, what kind of challenges, what kind of process you have gone through. Let us know a little bit about your early life and experiences.
You know what, as I was thinking about this interview and reflecting back, I have to say, like, my early life, I had very supportive parents who really believed that a woman or a girl could be as successful as a guy. And they really pushed me and my siblings in that way. There was no really differential treatment between my brother and my sisters and I. But early on, I was an avid reader. I was the reader of the family, I would say. We have a sports person, we have another, different personalities, but I read. And I was always drawn to biographies of women. And in fact, I remember going to my elementary school library and they had a section on famous women. And I went through and read every single book on each of these women, and they really were quite inspirational to me. And I remember, like, Elizabeth Blackwell, the first doctor in the US, Helen Hayes, the matriarch of Broadway. And to this day, I remember reading those books. But, as I grew up and I was going to high school, my family had to move not once, but twice. And I think that impacted me in terms of either just your normal adolescence or changing schools twice, where I became a little bit quieter in my voice of, treatment for women and trying to reach that equal stage. And I think that probably stayed with me as a theme for a lot of my early career. In that, I remember someone talking to me about whether they should have a women's initiative at my first law firm. And I was like, what are we going to do? Talk about nail polish? I was really dismissive of it. And, it didn't hit me yet that there was a different way we would be treated. I think because I had been raised that you can do what you want and everything is equal. And the idea of unconscious bias, I don't think had arisen yet, that it never dawned on me that there was this need for us to support each other and to look at the institutional structures to see what we could change. And I think it was only later in my career that I realized, why were all these women in the legal profession not owning their careers, whether it's being rainmakers or general counsel? And part of it, I think, is society, and part of it I thought were structural barriers. And so really, in my reinvention, after being a senior corporate legal executive, I'm trying to help women in the business of law get to that level and get greater control over their compensation, their career, and most importantly, their courage. find their
Mm-hmm.
voice. Like I said earlier, I had sort of felt I had lost my voice. We could talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when we are talking about, having your profession or having your work in early as a legal or as a lawyer, attorney, so what kind of usually as a female challenges do you find a part of, definitely you mentioned few of them, having not finding your voice and all, a part of that, what other way you feel like still those are persisting in the society when you are having this profession?
I think in some ways it's gotten better. And I would say the most overt and offensive sexism is decreased. But then I hear stories now and then for some of the women I work with, and maybe it hasn't gone as far as I went, I mean, there was a lot of, when I was younger, parading out the prettier attorneys for the clients. And there was some of that, come out drinking with the clients type thing. And you may not have gotten those opportunities. And there was a lot of thought about, well, she's a mother now, and so she's not going to get those plum assignments. And I think some of that has slowly changed. But I do think that we are still, people don't understand that women's minds are a little bit different than men and how we operate and maybe how we've been trained. And so sometimes we don't have our voice. Like there's a study on medical students where the women were more lowly rated because they didn't want to answer, they didn't raise their hand to answer the professor's questions. But when the professors sort of changed the structure, so they called on people, they knew the answers. It was just for some reason they didn't project and reach out and sort of say it. And I think there's something to be said for that. And I think we both need to look at it from both a societal and inner perspective, because the societal changes take a long time. So in some ways we have to try to get into enough power that we can make more of those changes.
Yeah, and that's the one of the way, like today we are together on this platform to create those voice when we are feeling like we don't speak out, but we need to speak out somewhere. But Sheila, you are a member of board of director of National Association of Women Lawyers, and where you deal with those advisory board, and as a member you deal all sort of issues. So when you are having such kind of a senior position, what kind of work does involve as a women leader? Or maybe you can think of like this work is still I'm doing, or maybe I'm thinking in future I need to involve in.
I like going places where I can have a voice and try to make a difference for other people. And that to me, in terms of where I spend my quote unquote free time and invest it, is important to me, that the organizations speak to me and that they have a strong mission, and that it's not just an honorary type thing, but someplace where you can dig in and in some meaningful way try to make a difference for people. When I was thinking about switching careers and I did some soul searching, I realized one of my core values is trying to help people get to that next place. I find great satisfaction and happiness from that. And not by dragging them along, but by giving people the tools to get to that next level. So that to me is an important part of who I am and how I want to serve.
Yeah, definitely. And that reconnects the way you started your journey, that you was inspired by reading those books, and the same way continuing your passion and having your own way to create those mission and purpose. And then same time, as you are mentioning about your own work and leading with passion and purpose to have your own company. So tell us about you have your Focus Forward consulting company. So what is it all about?
It really is about trying to get women to greater leadership positions. And by that, I mean power positions, if that's what they want. I work with some women who are interested in other things, maybe a career switch and that, but I would say the bulk of the women who I work with, because most of my clients are women lawyers, I have a few men who are fabulous too, but they're focusing on how they can design a career that fulfills them and gets them what they deserve in terms of their career's compensation. And to do that, we talk a lot about the idea of courage and changing mindset to get to that next level, as well as a lot of pragmatic tools. Having been in-house for over 20 years, I hired a lot of outside lawyers, so I understand that decision process. And having navigated the corporate ladder, I'm in a good position to also help people figure out how to get up those rungs, even when they may appear to be broken or gone.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's the way you mentioned your work, and it's definitely seems like you are dedicated to work for women, whether they are in lawyer looking for leadership position or with looking for their legal profession. But when we are talking about this working with them to really getting them higher or leadership position, do you think as a looking for those leadership positions are moreover fitting into the environment or society, which is moreover masculine work environment, or do you promote them to be really authentic feminine leadership along with them, their own profession?
I push people to be authentic, because you need to be authentic, because people can tell who's a phony.
Yeah.
But I do teach them some of the tricks to maybe ease into influence things in a different way. Unfortunately, it's still, even women still view leaders through some masculine traits, because that's the way we've been trained. So it's trying to maneuver people the right way, but keeping them their authentic self, because that really is critical. And I think that's what I did in finding my voice. I mentioned earlier, you know, it took me a long time to find my voice. And what happened to me is when I went in-house, I didn't want to speak in public. That was my thing. I wanted to be a lawyer whose head was down, wasn't talking to anyone, just did my job and got home. And this was my career thread. But when I got in-house, I realized that you needed to do more to be successful. And it didn't even dawn on me that that was important until there was a gentleman, we'll call him Matt, who worked with me. And Matt really wasn't that intuitive or strategic, but he talked all the time. He schmoozed. He did, you know, spewed out nonsense, to be frank. And he got promoted. And then it dawned on me, I had to change myself, not only because for myself, but for my company, because they were relying on Matt, because they didn't hear what I had to say, because I was keeping it inside. And by the time Matt left the company, he was reporting to me. So once I changed my mind, it was, I mean, I'm not going to say it was an easy thing. Changing that stuff takes time. So I understand when people are going through transitions, the ups and downs of it. But I've been there, so I understand that enhancing your skills and changing your mindset is not easy.
Yeah, definitely. It is not easy, but when, as the way you took the action, you understood at the right time what the reason and how you can raise your voice, how you have to put your voice into the work, into the mission. And it is sometimes daunting for many of women, and they might not feel comfortable to speak out. But as you mentioned in your profession, especially when we are talking about this, you are working with lawyers and women in lawyer, how you develop that quality in them? Or do you feel it is now they are more exposed, or they are more comfortable to speak out for themselves, or still it is a long journey to go for that?
It is talking about mindset change a lot, and people, they don't see, a lot of times these women don't see how unique and wonderful they are and the leadership attributes that they embody. So there's a lot of work of doing that and getting comfortable with putting it out to the world. A lot of times I'll work with women to change their LinkedIn profiles, and then they don't want to put it out there. They don't want, it seems that it feels uncomfortable. It feels like they're bragging. And they don't like doing this. We're so used to advocating and investing in others. We don't do it for ourselves, and it doesn't feel comfortable. And so, unfortunately, it's still something that plagues women. I always say that a guy would go on stage and talk about breastfeeding as an expert, where a woman would hesitate now and then. And so we need, it's still a place where we could try to get people more comfortable, but maybe at some point we want to change the culture so that being that person isn't what people perceive as leadership. Maybe there is that quiet leader. And I think there are some people who I work with who have a more quiet leadership tone, and it can be very impactful and effective. It's just learning how to harness that solitude as your leadership.
Yeah. And when we are talking about this all leadership and in the female and women work, you have your own business and you started your own company. You are a CEO and you work with a lot of female. Do you have any experience or maybe an inspiring story where you feel like you have seen those changes while working with those female?
Yes, I mean, I have one absolutely fabulous client who I've been working with for a while, because like I said, these changes don't happen overnight. And she was trying to get to a very senior position, and there are not a ton of those. And when we started working together, she viewed herself as so small, even though she had a very powerful position. She still viewed herself as just being a legal technician. I don't know how to put it other than that, just on her skill set. And she didn't view herself as a leader. And to get to that next level, you really need to believe to achieve. And you need to believe you're a leader to achieve that leadership. And so we spent a ton of time working about that. And also, just because it's such a long journey, you start to doubt yourself. And I'm thrilled to say, based on some of the strategies that we had come up with, she was in position she has currently. They told her they wanted her to move to groom her to the next level. And then she got not one, but two outside offers at that next level. Wow. And so, so it really, how she views the world and how she views her career is done a 180. She is out there. She is engaging, and then I've worked with a ton of other women who have just really worked on their leadership. And I don't want to make it sound like it's just senior women. I'm working with some very junior women who are very intentional about their careers. And we're working on it now so that from the beginning of their careers, they're portraying this leader. And it's very interesting to see these junior women really take ownership of the career at a much earlier stage. And I think it's thrilling because they are positioning themselves for such success that I can't believe it. It's really amazing to see. And I've seen also the other world, the law firm world, a lot of women who I've worked with get more comfortable with both advocating for themselves and enhancing their professional reputation, but also starting to ask for the business, realizing how you can do that in an authentic way. I think you brought that up, because again, asking for business, talking to people about what you do and how you do it, now and then can feel kind of icky to some women. I don't know if that word translates globally. I hope it does, but they don't love it. And so it's trying to get them to realize that it is part of their authentic self and they have the power to do this. And to see women turn around and own it, and not only just with their potential clients, but with their partners at the law firm, and negotiate for the salaries that they deserve. It's always so rewarding when I have someone sort of see what it can be like, what the world can be like for them.
Definitely. It is rewarding. It is fulfilling, and it is kind of giving you accomplishing feeling, whether you are doing for self or for others. I totally agree with that. But when we are talking about what kind of, maybe as you work with a lot of women, kind of some tricks or tips you can give in general to our audience who are listening or watching us?
My biggest trick, quote unquote, is have a good friend or personal board of directors, a group of women or men who you can go to with your biggest career questions and who are both your biggest advocate, but the most honest people with you. You don't need someone who's going to be an echo chamber. You need real, honest advice. And some ways that these people can help you. I have seen people talk to their board of directors about whether they should be leaving their company, whether or not they're at a dead end. They have used their board of directors also as a way to look at how they're portraying themselves to the outside world. So their LinkedIn, or I have a friend who circulates when she has to put in her compensation memo, you know, self-advocating for what she deserves. She sends it around to her group. So they take out words like, oh, I think I had a good year. Or, you know, luckily I had a great team. And so we got to this place. And changes all of that into like owning what you accomplished. I did this. I did that. And so they use these people as really the sounding board. And the other thing, when you have that really great personal board of directors, they don't always wait for you to come to them. They'll come to you and say, like one friend of mine who has one, and she was saying, I hate to say it, but Jan came to me and said, you need to leave. I know you're not seeing it, but you need to leave your company and look for something different because they're not appreciating your value. So the board of directors is really powerful. The second thing I would say is make sure you have a deep, strong network. And by network, I don't mean the people you meet once at a cocktail party and you don't, you know, further those connections. To me, networking is really more about almost every human interaction. And it's the cultivation, you know, everyone, a lot of people are complaining because there are no in-person events right now. In-person events are nice, but it was just you went there and you got cards, but you didn't further the conversation or the relationship, then you weren't doing it. And women have a tendency to have much more narrow networks than men. And they're deeper relationships, but they're more narrow. And so men have broader networks. Or shallow. We won't get into that, you know, that men are shallow. But what the impact is when you're looking for an opportunity and you're a man and you go to your male counterparts and say, I'm looking for this type of thing. Each of them knows like 5 or 6 times the, you know, the number of people as a woman does. So they can help them find those opportunities more. And so while those deep relationships are really impactful and helpful for the things we talked about with the personal board of directors, the broad network is really helpful in terms of finding those golden opportunities. And so spend the time, even in this virtual world, to reach out and connect to people. And as I'm telling a lot of people now, if you have sort of been one of those people who's withdrawn a little bit during the pandemic, now is the time to sort of rekindle those relationships. We're about a year in. So it's a nice time to say, you know what, I can't believe it's a year. I've realized that I haven't kept up with people. I would like to sort of maybe do a virtual cup of coffee. If you don't want to do a Zoom, do a phone call or, you know, a virtual walk with somebody, but start to rekindle those connections. Because it is important and it does make a huge difference in your career trajectory.
Yeah, I think you shared very nice tips and very strong way that how one can develop these deep and broader, both kind of connections. But when we are talking about connection and especially when you're talking in this pandemic scenario, you shared these very beautiful tips how one can connect, whether over the phone, over the Zoom. Those are really powerful. But sometimes, maybe someone is not that way, or somebody is looking for to share maybe deeper deeper relationship, like where, as you talk about female, those are having deeper connection. So what do you advise to them? Because as you mentioned yourself, that as a female, we are more over connecting deeper, but they feel hesitant to spread out or having wider connection. How they can develop that? Is it same way, or maybe how they can
If you
change that
want more
mindset?
deeper, yeah, I think part of it is if, we also sometimes when there are people we want deeper connections with because we think there's something there or something that someone can help us, we hesitate. And I hear this all the time from women. Oh, I don't want to bother that person. Oh, they're going to be busy. I had someone who was told that and she was looking for work. She was an outside lawyer looking for work. And she was told by a friend, oh, my mother, who's a big general counsel, would love to help you. She felt weird reaching out to that woman to have a cup of coffee to see how that woman could help her. And so we create these stories in our heads around the people. Oh, they're busy. Oh, they're not going to want to talk to me. Oh, I'm sure they have much better things to do. And what happens is if you reach out, the worst thing that happens is they say they're too busy. You're no worse off than you were, or they don't respond and you're no worse off. But if you find that person, and you're right, there is a connection, you get the beauty of cultivating a relationship that can enrich your life. Yeah. And so you need to take those chances. And I tell people right now in this virtual world, there's so many online discussions going on. And especially for speakers, they're not getting that feedback that they used to get. And reach out to them and just say, I found what you had to say very meaningful and why. And maybe try to start a conversation. The other interesting place that I've been starting to experiment with myself, I'm not a deep user of it, is the Clubhouse. But I am seeing from that, starting to connect with people all over the world. Who are in the legal profession, people I probably would not have met but for this mechanism. And so I think that's another place where you could start these relationships. But remember, the starting is the starting. Beauty is in the follow-up and being there for the other person. And so it's really important that you listen when you're talking to someone. What matters to them, what's going on with their life, and then trying to add some sort of value. So if someone says to you, I'm going to do a reinvention of my department and I'm focused on this, and you see an article on that, send it. Or an expert who's going to be speaking about it, send it. Or I used to say in the days when we traveled, if you want to add value, like someone says, oh, I'm thinking of going to Italy, send them your favorite restaurants in Italy. Well, it's all about creating true connection. And my favorite story on this is actually a guy. And these two gentlemen met at a conference when we could meet in the conference. And they realized they both had this love of fly fishing. And the one gentleman said, well, I'm going to this little town in Montana and where there's like 3 hotels, and I'm going to go fishing in like 3 weeks. The other gentleman called up the local fishing shop, found out what was running, had special lures made for this guy, and had them delivered to his hotel. I mean, it's just that extra step of thinking. I had, similarly, it doesn't have to be as big as that. A woman heard me speak on diversity, and she sent me this book by Dr. Seuss that she thought had an undertone of diversity message. And so she sent that to me. Yeah. And I thought that was just lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Those are the way to show your empathy, show your compassion, show your deeper level of connection, that how you really care about your connection. And those are really great advice. And in the same way, when we are talking about all your work, all your coaching, mentoring, especially after your more than 20 years of experience, what way do you think, if our audience or our listener would like to get connect with you, so how they can connect with you?
Well, you can always connect with me at Sheila Murphy Focus Forward on LinkedIn. And I love hearing from everyone. And there I post some, I think, interesting sort of information. You can also reach out to me at Sheila at focus-forward-consulting.com. And my website is www.focus-forward-consulting.com. And I try to post some interesting information there that I think is relevant both to lawyers, non-lawyers, and because I want to lift all women up and at the end of the day.
That's wonderful. And I definitely, those information and details we will put in the description as well, so they can find those connection and can get back to you, get connect to you. But before finishing, why do you think the platform like this, Women Dialogue, is needed?
Because I think the stories and expertise of women are so important and are inspirational. I think we learn from each other and we are inspired by each other. And what I love about this platform is that you're bringing women across the globe together so that they can do that and have this larger conversation. And it really is just remarkable. And I think through these types of conversations, we're going to see the progress. We're going to see things change. It may not happen as quickly as we like, but we'll know that we are not alone and that there are so many women working towards these goals. And every moment there's just somebody out there who makes you think, wow, we can do this. And you're in awe of them. I think this is just, it makes me so happy to hear the stories and the inspiration from all your guests.
Oh, that's wonderful. And thank you. Thank you. It really made my, this shows so much, making me fulfillment that, yes, I am doing something, the real cause, as I always passion for. Last but not least, what advice or one message would you like to give to our viewers?
What I would say is, all of us are now and then afraid, but do it anyway, because that's when the magic happens. Nothing that is easy, nothing that is easy has the impact. So when you're afraid, recognize you're afraid, and that's okay, but go ahead and just do it.
Yeah, it is so powerful. And I think it is very much requirement for everyone, because we have those fear inside, but how we can counter and how we can come out from this, it's so important. Once again,
especially with our
please, yes, you are saying something.
Oh no, I was just going to say, especially with our voice, the world needs to hear everyone's voice.
Yeah, definitely. That is true. Like, we need to create those voice, those stories, and those unique way of all life have some experience, like the way you share your experience, your expertise, and your journey. It is remarkable. It is having a lot of learning. And especially if someone who is looking for similar kind of profession in their life, they can learn a lot from you by listening, by hearing your journey. Isn't it great? It always made me.
It does make you blush a little. You feel great about it, but then you realize we learn from everybody. So yes, it's true. If I'm saying I learn from other people, then they learn from me, and we need to own that and own that we all add such tremendous value in this world.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It always made me so super fascinated, and I feel like, it's something like I'm keep learning each day, each time when I interview, when I talk with these beautiful women. Those are having such a wonderful story. So once again, thank you so much, Ms. Sheila. It was such a great pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I loved the conversation.
Thank you. And thanks to all viewers. If you would like to hear more women voice and part of Women Dialogues, please connect with us. Please share, subscribe, like, and thank you. See you in the next episode. Don't forget to check the Sheila's work. Her details are available in the description as well. See you next time. Till then, enjoy. Bye-bye.